Throughout time, there have been mysteries mankind cannot explain. But advances in technology have led to new theories, and the search is underway for evidence that may unlock the most baffling questions of our time. On Mystery Quest. Inside a circle of mammoth stones, an ancient ritual is beginning. Drums beat. The rhythm builds until it reaches the perfect tempo. And all here fall into a bizarre trance. Can dissecting this strange ritual unlock the sinister secrets of Stonehenge? Stonehenge is a mysterious ancient monument, isolated deep in the English countryside. To this day, no one has been able to determine who built Stonehenge or why. Carbon dating shows that construction began here nearly 5,000 years ago. A ceremonial avenue approaches the site from the nearby Avon River. The original monument was made up of approximately 153 colossal standing stones, weighing up to 40 tons and arranged in a circular enclosure. The expedition team will investigate the theory that Stonehenge was a temple of the dead.
So far, the researchers looked at what Stonehenge looks like and what it's physically like, and they've ignored what it sounds like.
The team will use ancient instruments to recreate prehistoric rituals inside the circle. Ceremonies that may have helped the ancient people believe dead spirits were present.
Research has shown that repetitive drum beats can lower the brainwave frequencies. In these states, there may be a sense of presence associated with the awareness of spirits.
The expedition team has traveled to Stonehenge to investigate what ancient sounds can reveal about prehistoric rituals at the site. Rupert Till is an acoustics technology expert and is leading the expedition team.
People 4,000 years ago lived in an oral culture, so oral from their mouths and oral from their ears. They didn't live in a written culture. Things were passed on through speaking and listening. So it's perfectly likely that if you go to a ritual site, that sound and audio is as important as what you look at.
Bruno Facenda is an expert at analyzing acoustic data. The team has targeted the unique construction of Stonehenge as a key to this investigation.
What's most remarkable about Stonehenge is the stones themselves. On one side they're quite rough, the other side is curved, and they're curved in a way that seems only to have acoustic properties.
Stadiums have used curved walls to reflect and focus sound for over 2,000 years. The first structures known to have been specifically built this way were Roman amphitheaters in the 1st century BC. If Stonehenge was built for its acoustics, it would predate the Roman structures by more than 2,000 years.
The idea here is to measure the acoustical properties of the stone, see how much sound it reflects.
If the stones reflect a powerful echo, they will repeat and actually change rhythms played inside the circle.
What can make sound so powerful in a kind of ritualistic setting is that it can be very repetitious and rhythmic. The regularity of that helps to entrain our mind so that we fall in sync with the music.
A specialist in prehistoric instruments joins the team to recreate ancient music at the site. He is using replicas of 4,500-year-old drums, discovered by archaeologists in Europe. A highly sensitive multi-directional microphone and digital audio recorder will measure the response of the space.
These ones have decoration inside the foot, which would imply somehow someone's got to see it,
Okay.
maybe on a shoulder.
Very faint, but there's an echo there.
It does sound different over there to over here, doesn't it?
But I
It's
guess-
astonishing. Do you want to try over here by what would have been the altar?
The team moves to where the main altar once stood.
Yeah.
There was a real patter echo off that.
Jack,
We
Jack,
didn't get that
Jack.
before. Shall we
Keep
try
going?
too?
Yeah, absolutely.
You start, I'll join in. There it is. Can you hear it? Stay there. Try and play in time to it.
When Till and Wyatt play at a certain speed, it sounds like the Stones are playing the drum beats back to the drummers.
You
Quite
could
like
hear the
that.
echo really clearly, can't you? Could you hear that pattering there, taka, taka, taka? But once we started playing this repeated rhythm, the space seemed to interact with that, immediately build up.
The team measures the frequency at which they are getting echoes from the Stones.
We're exciting this very low mode of vibration, this frequency that you can't hear unless you play it at the right speed. So what happens is once you start playing about the right speed, you start to hear these frequencies. See, that's about 10 hertz. That frequency is about the same frequency that alpha waves go at.
The drums are playing at exactly the sound frequency needed to produce alpha waves in the human brain.
Alpha waves are one of the sorts of rhythms that the brain seems to fall into during times of relaxation. Exposing people to rhythmic sounds can begin to put them into that kind of meditative state.
By creating alpha waves, repetitive drum beats can actually create an altered state of mind.
Did you find yourself losing it? I found myself drifting off, and then I started thinking I'm drifting off.
Sound is not the only clue to what went on at Stonehenge. Bones buried at the site may reveal a sinister story.
Some of the arrowhead tips are actually embedded in his bones.
Mystery Quest is in England, trying to unlock the secrets of one of the most famous mysteries in the world. Stonehenge. Historians believe construction began at Stonehenge as early as 3100 BC. But it continued for over 1400 years as the monument was adapted and passed down from generation to generation. It started off as a circular earthwork and ditch.
The first stones arrive, well, there's a lot of argument about this at the moment, probably sometime around 2700 or 2600 BC. And that's the blue stones. The blue stones are the first stones on site.
Strangely, blue stones originate more than 140 miles away at the Preseli Hills in Wales.
The people who built Stonehenge must have been doing so for purposes that seemed very, very important to them at the time. It was always a literally monumental undertaking. A lot of the big stones come from Wales, so transporting those for people who didn't have the wheel has to have been an unbelievably difficult undertaking.
Around 2500 BC, the blue stones were rearranged and the largest sandstones were placed in a circle around them.
The really significant thing is that those stones are shaped. They're jointed together with these sort of mortise and tenon joints. Each upright has protruding sort of knobs on the top of it that fit into hollows. It looks like carpentry joints, but here they've done it in this very, very hard stone.
Amazingly, 4,500 years ago, the people who built Stonehenge were applying carpentry skills to 40-ton boulders. The monument appears to have been mysteriously abandoned sometime after 1000 BC. This prehistoric feat of engineering has baffled mankind for generations. In the early Middle Ages, it was believed that the legendary wizard Merlin built Stonehenge with the help of giants. In the 17th century, it was thought to be a Roman temple dedicated to the god of the sky. But the first concrete clue was discovered in the 20th century, when archaeologists realized the position of the sun dictated the monument's orientation.
It clearly is aligned on the midsummer solstice and the midwinter solstice, the longest and the shortest days of the year.
When Stonehenge was built, the ancient people of Britain were beginning to live in larger communities, farming the land. They relied on the seasons and marked their passing at Stonehenge. In 2005, an archaeologist named Mike Parker Pearson made an astounding find a short distance from the site, one that shed further light on ancient seasonal rituals here.
At a village site that was in operation about the same time that one of the big building phases was going on at Stonehenge, they found masses and masses of pig bones.
Analysis of the bones showed that they date to approximately 2600 BC. All the pigs were of a similar age and killed at the same time of the year. Around the time of the winter solstice, a few days before our modern-day Christmas.
It's just the sheer quantity of pig bones that have been found there. It looks like feasting.
At the stone circle itself, even more sinister clues were unearthed. Human bones, hundreds of them, primitively burned and buried.
The first analysis of all the cremated bones that were found at Stonehenge suggests that it's mainly adult males, adult men that were buried there. So it's quite a distinctive group of people. And only probably very important people came there to be buried.
The bones were dated across 1,000 years of prehistory, leading some experts to suggest that rituals here may have been organized to honor the dead of an ancient ruling dynasty. But what were these rituals? One full skeleton discovered at the site could provide clues.
There is a burial in the ditch, the man who's known as the Stonehenge Archer. This man was found at Stonehenge quite close to the entrance. He was buried with his stone wrist guard and a quiver of arrows. And the assumption was that he was an archer, but then somebody looked very closely at the arrowheads and realised that a lot have got their tips missing, and some of the tips are actually embedded in his bones. So the arrows weren't something that was put in his grave as grave goods, they were actually the cause of his death.
The archer was shot with at least 5 arrows and buried in the most sacred monument of his time.
To me, the most informative of the bones in this person's body is this one. And this has got damage from a flint-tipped arrow, but it's not on the outside, it's from the other side. So what this means, this little tiny mark here, is that this man was shot from behind with an arrow that went right through his body cavity and lodged in the back of his breastbone.
The evidence points to the possibility of human sacrifice.
I can't believe that he was simply a murder victim. because you would not bury somebody in the ditch at Stonehenge if you just happened to kill them. So he must have been somebody important.
The science team has devised a test that could reveal the archer's true fate. Barry Keegan is a primitive technologies expert. He makes prehistoric and ancient bows and flint-tipped arrows, and is also an accomplished archer.
In prehistoric or ancient times, bows and arrows were certainly a part of daily life.
The expedition team has been investigating the theory that Stonehenge was a temple used to commune with the dead. But only around 40% of the original stones are still standing.
The difficulty with the stones being down is it's like trying to measure a cathedral's acoustics when you've knocked the thing down. There should be some of the same effects, but it's not the same.
The team needs to test the sound in Stonehenge as if the site was still intact. And there is a place to do this.
You could hear them starting to resonate one at a time. It would sweep up and go, and the whole room starts to kind of move and shake.
Mystery Quest is investigating whether Stonehenge could have been a temple for communicating with the dead. The circle is missing many of its stones, but there is a full-size reproduction of the original intact monument. It stands next to the Columbia River in Mary Hill, Washington. Native son Sam Hill built it as his monument to the war dead from World War I. It is the best approximation of what Stonehenge would have looked like 4,500 years ago. The team's theory is that ceremonial drumming at Stonehenge could have induced a trance in ancient humans, one that could have helped them believe dead spirits were present. In many cultures, trance is used for the same purpose. Voodoo rituals in Haiti and parts of Africa rely heavily on repetitive drumming to induce a trance. In this state, participants believe that they become possessed by gods and can talk to the dead. Experts now believe that drums are key in creating a mind-altered state.
The reason for that seems to be this general phenomenon of what is called entrainment. When people are exposed to certain rhythmic stimuli, their brains drop into sync with that pattern. That seems to be one of the reasons why they help people drop into meditative states. If Stonehenge really is a place where you're getting the right kind of acoustic boosting, the echoes might have taken on a very unusual property.
The team believes that Stonehenge may have amplified the drum rhythms, enhancing the effect on the human brain.
No one's heard what Stonehenge really sounded like for at least 3,000 years, because it's not been complete. So we can hear what it sounded like and know how it would have felt to be in there.
So this is our Dodi. It's a dodecahedron, a special speaker for acoustic measurements. It's got 12 sides, 12 speakers. It sends sound in every direction. This is the sound card. This is going to communicate with the computer. That then gets sent to the low frequency speaker, and the high frequency gets sent to the Dodi.
So we're going to play one sound at a time, one frequency, one note, and try and find the frequencies where things resonate and see if we can make the place ring like a wine glass.
If the team can find the point at which the space begins to vibrate with sound or resonate, they will be able to create a drum track that may induce a trance.
So this is the first mode.
They sweep through the different sound frequencies called modes.
Okay, second mode, 24.5.
The first three modes do not produce the effect they are looking for.
Right, that should be mode number 4.
But at mode number 4, there is something different.
And I'll give you the volume at the centre. Right, 2.5.
All right, just move on to the next one.
It's just amazing. So that's 4.3 metres away. 61.
Okay.
So here I've moved maybe a metre away and we're at 75 decibels. So it's doubled in volume just by moving a metre. Instead of getting quieter, it's getting louder. 79, 81.
The sound doesn't seem to decrease in volume the further you get from the speakers. This is a sectional look at how this sound is traveling from the center of the circle to the edge. The peaks show where sound is loudest, and the valleys where the sound is distinctly quieter.
The sound seems almost magically to be carried across the space. It moves around the space in a really unusual way.
To understand how sound at Stonehenge can affect the human brain, the science team will conduct an experiment using a brain imaging system called MEG, magnetoencephalography. It measures the magnetic fields produced by electrical activity in the brain. David Purple is a neuroscientist and one of the leading experts on how the brain processes sound.
Magnetoencephalography is...
At the expedition site, the team is about to recreate the ancient sounds of Stonehenge.
Did you hear the effect?
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty amazing, really.
The expedition team is investigating ancient ceremonies that may have occurred at Stonehenge. The religious ceremonies of many present-day cultures can offer insight into a common ritual practice.
If we look at other cultures and we look at their ritual, traditional cultures, often there are what we'd call nowadays drugs going on. There might be hallucinogenic plants being eaten, and that would enhance the experience or further alter people's consciousness and their states of mind.
Shamans in the Amazon use hallucinogenic plants and repetitive chanting to induce a trance. And there is evidence that mind-altering drugs could have played a part in ancient British rituals. Prehistoric pots discovered in Britain contain the residue of strong alcoholic drinks. And plants such as cannabis and henbane, an herb that can cause powerful hallucinations, are known to have been growing in England at the time.
This is ritual technology that we're looking at, is capable of leading you into those sort of experiences.
There may even be a parallel to ancient rituals in modern pop culture.
Stonehenge has similarities to a rave club or to a rock concert venue. I've actually done some research in nightclubs in sort of techno culture and found that people there, their heartbeats actually synchronise to the music. It's like having a remote control button.
And it's not just sound that can have this effect.
Sound and light can both be very powerful triggers for these states. And one of the things that's most interesting is whether sound and light together may be even more powerful.
At Maryhill, the team will test the theory that both sound and light can combine to produce a powerful effect on the human brain.
We know people were here at night because there were sunrise and sunset rituals. If you're here at night 4,000 years ago, you need light, you're going to have flames. You've got a particular rhythm playing, and suddenly you see flaming torches starting to come alive and flash in time to the music. 4,000 years ago, that would have been very spooky, very powerful, a sign of the gods being present, the ancestors rising up. They could help you achieve a trance-like state.
Flashing lights are known to have a powerful effect on the brain. They can trigger epileptic fits, but can also have a positive effect when used to treat psychological disorders, like depression.
We should see this flame, hopefully, get pulse getting bigger and smaller in time to the music as the pressure of the air varies.
Okay, sound going now.
First, Till places the flame right in front of the speaker.
You could see this light flashing like a strobe. So it's flashing in time to the music.
The sound from the speaker creates waves in the air that move the flame.
So what we'll do now is perhaps go and see if the same thing works over the other side of the circle.
If Till's theory is correct, the sound echoing off the stones will cause the flame to flash in time to the music, even when far from the source.
Nice and loud this time, Bruno.
It's as loud as we can go.
So it's not that obvious an effect. It's not going bop, 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 bop in a really accurate way, but when it does flicker, they're getting dark patches and light patches in time to the music. We showed it was like a strobe. Now with big flames, with lots of flames in the space, and lots of drums and a loud noise, that would have affected people. People have always stared into firelight because it always flickers between 5 and 15 hertz, and slowly their brains become entrained by it.
Till and Facenda must now test the music itself.
We're going to take the strongest frequency and try and do the same thing with percussive sounds, as if we were here 4,000 years ago with 100 people instead of a bass speaker.
The team is trying to produce a large amount of low-frequency sounds. Frequencies between 8 and 15 hertz produce alpha waves in the human brain. And alpha waves are connected to an altered state of mind.
Very low-frequency sounds are also associated with a number of other natural phenomena, storms, earthquakes. And maybe that is why when we hear those kinds of rhythms showing up in religious rituals, for example, that people experience a sense of awe.
Okay.
Almost immediately, the drum beats begin to echo off the structure to create a powerful, repeated rhythm. Stonehenge is resonating with sound.
Works fantastically here. It really backs up our argument, because it's all very well doing things with modern loudspeakers, but these are drums. This is technology that existed 4,000 years ago.
The effect is difficult to hear through television speakers because the listener must be able to feel the vibrations of the sound. But people on the site are powerfully affected by the drum track.
Did you hear the effect? Is it fairly clear?
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty amazing, really. As the microphone moves in and you get over into this area, the lower frequencies just kind of envelop you.
It had a real effect on everybody there. It had an effect on me, some of the crew. We were really starting to feel almost ill. And that is one of the first signs of entrancement.
The team has collected and analyzed their data. Now, for the first time in 4,000 years, they can simulate the effect rituals could have had on ancient man.
We can take any sound. We can take me talking. We can take somebody playing a model of a drum from 4,000 years ago, and we can hear what this sounded like at Stonehenge.
Mystery Quest is on a mission to discover the true purpose of Stonehenge. This acoustics expert believes that drums played at Stonehenge could have induced a trance in ancient people. This neuroscientist says that rhythmic drum beats can alter patterns in the brain. And this archaeologist believes there may be evidence of human sacrifice at Stonehenge. The expedition team is analyzing the data they have gathered.
With the information from Stonehenge UK and Mary Hill, we were able to create a computer version of the acoustic of Stonehenge. And we were then able to recreate the sound of Stonehenge from 4,000 years ago. We can take any sound and we can hear what this sounded like. So here's a drum beat I've created in the computer with both me and Simon playing his 2 drums, which are replicas of 4,000-year-old drums found in Europe. And then I can add on the acoustic of Stonehenge.
This is the first time in 4,000 years that anyone has been able to experience the sounds of a ceremony at Stonehenge. And the computer model reveals new evidence about the monument.
All the research that we've gathered tells us that the centre is a very important place, a significant place where perhaps an elder, priest or shaman might have stood. Sound would travel out in all directions from there and bounce back at the same time. It's the sweet spot, it's the most important place.
The data also suggests that drummers would have played at the edge of the circle.
We suddenly heard an echo, and we started to realise that was the best place to stand and play a drum. And here we can see, this is the computer's model of the reverberation at the edge. And you can see this big spike here. This is an echo, a very strong echo.
The investigation at Stonehenge paints a picture of the kinds of rituals that could have taken place there. At important times of the year, prehistoric man may have gathered to honor the dead ancestors. They feasted on hundreds of animals and then made the journey to the stones. Here, a shaman would have conducted ceremonies from the center of the circle. Drummers would have beat out rhythms at the edge of the circle, playing in time to the echoes from the stones. A drum-induced trance could have helped the ancients believe they were communicating with the dead.
We played drums in here at the right speed and there were enough people, the place would start to ring. And the frequency of that ringing started to affect your brains, these alpha wave rhythms, and encourage the brain to slip into a trance.
Mystery Quest has unearthed intriguing new evidence that indicates Stonehenge was a place of the dead. The science team has proven that rhythmic sounds can induce an altered state of consciousness. The expedition team has produced new evidence that reveals what kind of ancient rituals occurred within these stones. And new archaeological finds show that our understanding of this prehistoric enigma must continue to be rewritten.
The one fundamental thing that we can't do, and that until somebody invents time travel we won't be able to do, is to actually go back and see what went on there and interrogate the people, talk to the people who built it and ask them, why did you do this? How did you do it? And until somebody invents that time machine, we're never going to know all the answers. Actually, that's what fascinates me.